Hello, my name's Jim Sumsion, and I'm with Jim's Jar Top Fermenter, and we're going to make kimchi today. The kimchi is a Korean, close as I've been able to find a word to describe it, as a Korean sauerkraut. It uses different vegetables than the traditional headed cabbage that we have. We're going to use daikon radish, we'll use Napa cabbage, we'll use ginger, fresh ginger, and we're also going to use some garlic. So let me just slip on a pair of gloves and we'll get busy. I first was introduced to kimchi when I was in the Air Force. I had a friend who married a Korean. He told me once that the Korean wives really liked Air Force housing because of the big white porcelain tub that they could use to make their kimchi in. They'd make big batches of it, and I never tasted any of that kimchi, but I also had a friend that invited us over for dinner. His wife was Korean and was also Korean, and she served us kimchi, so that was the first. And I know she didn't make it in the tub, but that was the first time I ever tasted it, and then I've just come into it from time to time as I've grown up in life, and I've really grown to like the taste of kimchi. There are probably as many different kinds of kimchi almost as there are Koreans. Different levels of spice, different vegetable ingredients. Like I said here, we're just going to do a real simple recipe. It's easy to make, and I'll explain why I do what I do. I do know that a lot of the Koreans like to make their kimchi out of the whole leaves of the cabbage. I like to cut it up into bite-sized pieces, so that's what I'm going to do here. I do the same with this. It's a little bit smaller pieces probably than the cubes or big chunks that they typically use. So the very first thing I like to do is cut up the cabbage. I'm just going to chop up 3.5 pounds of cabbage. I like to take some of the outside leaves off if they look a little bit dirty. These are nice and clean. You can get a good head of Napa cabbage here at Macey's. They have great ginger here, and occasionally they have daikon radishes. I don't think they sell really well back in the produce department, but occasionally you can get it. I got this radish here from an Asian market, and they almost always have a good stock of daikon. So I'm just going to cut the leaves right up the center and then chop them across into smaller pieces. Just about like that. We're going to end up with about 3.5 pounds of vegetables in our pan. After we've added the ginger and the radish and the garlic. And so I'm just going to slice up a little bit of this. I've already pre-sliced some of the ingredients. I just want you to see what I'm doing. This is a julienne mandolin. It has a removable blade. Snaps in there, and then there are different blades that come with it, and that works really well. If it's a fat radish, then I'm just going to cut it in half like that, and then you've got little French fry pieces of radish. And just drop those in there like that. And I've already cut up the ginger. Basically what we've got here is just a little pile of ginger that I sliced up with the same mandolin but with a smaller julienne blade. So it's more like a shoestring piece than it is a French fry. And then I've diced it like this so that I end up with little cubes. The reason I do that rather than just squeeze it or shred it is because I love the little splash of ginger when you're eating the kimchi. You get a little piece of ginger in there, and it really explodes in your mouth and is very delicious. So the final ingredient that we're going to put in here as far as vegetables is concerned is the garlic. And I've got a couple of cloves, nice garlic that we got here at Macey's. I'm just going to grate that so that it's the garlic flavor is spread throughout the kimchi rather than just smash it and peel it real quick. And get my grater. So I don't want chunks of garlic. I like the chunks of ginger, but I just like the garlic flavor. So we'll just grate that in here. I smashed it a little bit too well. Makes it harder to grate up, but it's okay. Just get everything off the grater and we're good to go there. And the last ingredients are the salt and the pepper flakes. So I will just slide that out of the way and move this here. And we're going to, in 3.5 pounds of vegetables, we're going to add 3.5 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of salt for each pound of vegetables. And depending on how spicy you like it, this is just a Korean pepper flakes with a little bit of salt in it. It's what's listed on the ingredients. It is in English, that part of it. But let's just add some salt. Again, the fermentation process draws the juice out of the vegetables. The probiotics, the natural probiotics, occur on all vegetables naturally. And so I'm just measuring 3.5 teaspoons. The salt draws the juice out of the vegetables, and then those probiotics eat the sugar in the juice and create lactic acid and carbon dioxide. Jim's jar top fermenter lets the carbon dioxide out of the jar so it doesn't pressurize, and the lactic acid stays in the jar, and that's the sour flavor that you taste in kimchi. And depending on how spicy you like it, I'll tell you, I got this recipe by going to the Asian market, buying a bottle of kimchi, reading the ingredients. I just bought daikon radish, Napa cabbage, ginger, garlic, pepper flakes, and already had the salt, and made up a recipe, and I haven't changed it since. It's been really good. The best reference I've had for the flavor, the authentic flavor, came from a young man who lived 2 years in Korea, and he said, that's pretty good kimchi for a white guy. So I normally add 4 heaping tablespoons of this pepper flakes. Since this container is kind of making them level, I'm going to put in 5 level tablespoons. Set that out of the way. Not adding any liquid. I'm just going to mix the salt and the pepper flakes into the vegetables, and it'll start getting, so I'll just show you kind of what it looks like right now. It looks dry and like there's no way that this bowl full of vegetables will fit in that 2-quart jar. But as I do this, and I'm not squeezing it hard, I'm just mixing in the salt. As I do it, you can already see the color starting to change. And I can feel the extra moisture through these gloves. One thing when you're making kimchi, it is important to wear gloves because these pepper flakes will stain your hands if you don't. If you're making big batches of kimchi, you can purchase gloves that come clear up past your elbows at the Asian market. And they're kimchi gloves. It's like a really long pair of dishwashing gloves. But I like small batches. That's Jim's Jar Top Fermenter lets you make small batches. You get, you can experiment with the ingredients, and when you find the recipe you like, then you can do more of those. More the color is more red now on everything. It's more liquid in the mixture. The size is becoming more compact and starting to create the sensation that maybe it will all fit in that jar. I've never been to Korea, so I've never had the kimchi from that perspective, but hopefully someday I'll get that opportunity. This takes a little bit longer to get the juice level that I want than sauerkraut does, because there's not quite as much juice in these vegetables, so it takes a little bit longer to get what I need. But it's coming.
Looks like it's just a bowl of sliced up carrots.
Yeah, now if I squeeze it here, you can see some of the juice coming out. Yeah, they do sort of look like carrots now, don't they? And you can experiment with the ingredients. Some people like to put what they call shrimp sauce or fish sauce in kimchi. It's probably one of the more common ingredients that the Koreans like to put in it. I don't make when I make some of this for samples, I don't add shellfish to it because some people are allergic to shellfish, and I don't want to take any chances of having a reaction. Okay, so now it's starting to really be juicy and good. One of the things that I really like to eat kimchi with is scrambled eggs. If you scramble the eggs, take them off the heat, and add the kimchi after the eggs have cooked, then you get the flavor of the kimchi and the benefit of the probiotics, because the reduced heat doesn't kill as much of the probiotic that's in the kimchi. It's good to eat with rice. It's really good added to a vegetable soup. I do the same thing. I cook the soup first and then serve it in the bowl and then add a little bit of kimchi to it, and it just really explodes the flavor of the soup. It's almost like a minestrone soup with the vinegar flavor. Okay, this is ready to put in the jar, and so I'm going to change my gloves really quick and we'll get it put in. Okay, so here I've got a 2-quart ball canning jar. It's wide mouth. I use a funnel that covers the lip of the jar. It's called Bottle Mate. You can get them online. And I'm just going to use my hand here and start putting it in the jar. As it fills up, I'll just pack it in with my fingers. If you've got a little stick or wooden spoon or something that you want to use to pack it in with, then that works too. So now the jar already looks full, and we've got this much left. So I'll just start packing it in a little bit. You'll start to see the juice fill up the air spaces as it gets tighter. There you can hear it, at least. I don't know if you can hear it on the camera, but I can hear it. And I'm going to pack it and fill it so that it's about right up to here. I may take a little bit of this out if I've got too much, but there's still room for juice to fill in. And it's a pretty orange color. Kimchi doesn't change color in the jar like red cabbage and red and green cabbage does. So you won't notice a lot of change as the fermentation occurs. And I think that's just enough. I'll set that aside, and I'm going to get a new glove and put the lid on. I'd never made kimchi before I had designed this jar top fermenter. I made lots of sauerkraut before, but never kimchi. And so all of my experience making kimchi is with the fermenting lid. Jim's jar top fermenter comes with a drilled, grommeted white lid that fits any wide mouth jar, a white threaded cap that screws onto the wide mouth jar. We've got a standard airlock device that's primarily used in the home brewing industry, although I've repurposed it. And then a little glass cup that sits in the jar, and you want the top of that cup level with the top of the jar. That performs two functions. There's a little divot in the lip of the jar. It prevents the cup from sealing against the underside of this lid. It also lets the overflow juices go into the cup, and it makes it so that the carbon dioxide always has a path to the airlock device so that it can get out of the jar and not build pressure inside the jar. And the last step here is just to attach the jar, to make sure I've got a good seal for the rubber, I'm just going to add a little bit of water to the lid here and moisten both sides of the red rubber ring and the black rubber grommet. That does a couple of things for me. It'll seal better when it's wet, and you can, I don't know if you can see it, but it's dark when it's got good contact on that side of the lid. So when you put it on there, you know that you've got a good seal. And I'm just going to screw that on hand tight. It doesn't have to be super hard. And I'm going to add some water to this airlock. The airlock is just a three-piece device. There's a hollow tube that joins the inside of the jar with the compartment above the jar. There's water in the airlock that lets the carbon dioxide bubble out, but it won't let any mold or oxygen back into the environment. And then the little cap has holes in it so that the gas can escape. So I'm just going to, there are two little lines on the side of the airlock. I'm going to fill it with water to the top of, up to the second line. Snap that on there. Just insert it lightly but firmly. I don't want the tip of this airlock to be very far into the jar, because as the fermentation occurs, that cup will fill with liquid, and if this stem is down too far, then it will engage the liquid too soon, and you won't get as good of as much of the juice. So if you see any juice come up in the stem of the airlock, you know that cup is full. You can take the lid off, dump the cup out, put it back together, and you're ready to let it continue to ferment. It takes about 4 days for the fermentation to occur. That's about where I like to eat it. Some people like it stronger than that. I tell them that if you want it stronger, you can leave it longer. And I've left it as long as 2 months, and it was really sour by the end of 2 months. But the vegetables were still crisp, and it tasted good. It was just really strong. You can get Jim's Jar Top Fermenter at Ginger's Cafe or the Herb Shop in Springville. You can get it at Beehive Health Essentials here in Spanish Fork, or you can get it at Real Food Market in Orem at about 800 North and 400 West. Thank you for your time. It's been fun making this for you. I've got some samples for those who are here in attendance, and we'll see you next time.